Howdy, it's Mr. Ling. This is the Chapter 3 Ancient Egypt World History Review through videotape, coming live. Well, not really live, but coming from my kitchen. And what we're going to do is I'm going to spend maybe 30 minutes or so kind of walking you guys through some of this stuff that needs to be covered for your first chapter test. Remember, the chapter test is only over sections 1, 2, 3, and 4 of chapter 3. We are not doing section 5. So if you will just follow along with me, you can rewind, you can stop it, you can go back a few times. So if I start going kind of quickly, that's okay, because if you guys just rewind the videotape a little bit, you'll be able to catch on. I do want to make sure that the battery doesn't run out and that I cover everything within a decent frame time. I'm here in my kitchen, and I'm going to get ready to get some coffee going in just a few minutes to settle in. I got my hat on, got Batman's ready to go, and hopefully this will help you guys out because there is a lot of stuff to learn. But we're going to go ahead and start with section 1 of chapter 3. If you remember, you can find the section at the bottom right hand corner along with the chapter for each of the pages in the book. And the first section we're covering is the geography of the Nile. So if you have that in your books, you guys can go ahead and turn there now, and you can turn in your notebooks. Maybe you have it on your computer and took some notes there. We're going to go ahead and get started. And the first thing I want you to do is to make sure that you review, whether it's through note cards or with your friends or your parents, but review the key terms. You need to understand that the key terms on page 68, Nubia. Nubia was an ancient region in the Nile River Valley, and the Egyptians and the Nubians used to do a lot of trading back and forth. The next term is cataract, which we'll get to. It's a rock-filled rapids, usually a big rush of strong water current. Delta, which we talked about, we'll get to that in a few minutes, and silt, which of course we talked about is that fine soil that is churned up at the bottom of a riverbed or some type of water source. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on page 69, the course of the Nile River. Some of this stuff you remember me covering in class. Some of the stuff you probably have in your notes. If you don't, then you need to make sure that you're just kind of listening, paying attention, and getting this down as I kind of go through. The Nile River has two sources, which they are the Blue and the White Nile, as many of you already know. And remember, the river flows north. There is Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, and that's because it flows from the highest point in elevation to the lowest point in elevation, and then empties into the Mediterranean Sea. If you remember, we actually made a little bit of a map. And for those of you that don't have the map or forgot, we went ahead and we made the Mediterranean Sea at the top, if you can remember that. And then we had a bunch of different smaller parts of the Nile Delta here, which these are smaller streams. But you will remember that the half moon that we made, the half moon there, right in this section is the Nile River Delta. That is the area that floods. It deposits silt, which is the fine soil, and then of course when the water dries up, soaks into the ground, evaporates, there is fresh, fertile soil for the farming regions. All right, we need to make sure we always put our compass rose, which is easy if you paid attention in geography last year. If not, I'll just tell Mr. Ketchum that I had to reteach it, and then he won't be real happy. But north, south, east, and west. And I'm looking at my screen here, so hopefully it's coming out okay for you guys in the comfort of your home. North, south, east, and west. So to the west we have the Sahara Desert. Right there. To the east we have both the Red Sea, which I know this version's a little funky, but you get the idea. The Red Sea is there. And off the top of the Red Sea, we have the Tigris River. And again, these are in your notes, but it's okay to review. The Euphrates River, and it comes down and empties into the Persian Gulf. which is kind of over here. Tigris, T for the river that's kind of on the top. Euphrates, there we go. Euphrates, and then the Persian Gulf here. Sorry, it's the automatic, whatever you call that thing, focusing. We have the squiggly lines. There are 6 cataracts, if you remember correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then, of course, we have many different regions of Egypt. In this particular box here, we have Upper Egypt because the elevation is higher. Here we have Lower Egypt, and the river flows in this direction. Okay, those are the basics. We have the blue and the white Nile, of course, and you need to know the Nile River Delta. And that particular map that we made, I drew it on the board. You should probably have an idea of where those things are located, north, south, east, and west, because you will be asked to recall, if not even maybe label a map. All right. The cataracts, the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Red Sea, remember, are the 4 natural barriers that kind of protected Egypt, kept them from being invaded easily from other tribes, and it allowed them to flourish and survive for many, many centuries and even thousands of years. We talked a little bit, if you turn over the page to page 70 right here, you can see that the delta, the silt, and the desert protection are all talked about in your textbook. There's a portion in there that talks about the black land and the red land, black being my phone, and the black land was called Kemet, and the red land was considered the desert area, which of course was one of the natural barriers and protected against all different types of invasions. Right? The Sahara Desert obviously is very large, and the hot sands of the Sahara helped to shield and protect Egypt from foreign attacks. As we said, the Mediterranean Sea, the Egyptians could simply just set up on the coast and see ships from a long distance away, and they were pretty sure that if there's 3,000 ships headed to them, they're not on their way to have a New Year's Eve party. They're probably looking to beat some people up and steal some stuff. So they wanted to make sure that they could be protected in the Nile River Valley on all 4 sides: the cataracts, the Red Sea, the Med Sea, and the Sahara Desert. All right, hope you guys got that. If you turn to page 72, it talks a little bit about living along the Nile. And the Nile River, of course, had wonderful farmland that was not too far off of the riverbank. The further away you got, it makes sense. It gets hotter, it gets drier, and there's not a whole lot of vegetation that can grow. We also know that the Nile River was a great area for trade, whether it was in small increments, tiny little pieces, or much larger roads through the Red Sea area or across the Sahara. And as they would cross the Sahara, one of the things, the caravans, which your book talked about, which are basically nomads, gypsies, kind of traveling from one area to the next, and they are in the process, or they attempt to trade goods with one another. They would cross the Sahara Desert. They would also cross through the cataract area, the Mediterranean Sea. You had some ships coming from different foreign lands, and the Red Sea wasn't too popular because on the other side of the Red Sea, of course, there's a little bit of desert area, and then you'd hit eventually the Persian Gulf. But the Red Sea and the Mediterranean did contain some seaports, and of course they would trade gold, silver, copper, and different types of fine pottery. All right, and those little marketplaces would be used all around the banks of the Nile, as well as the Delta area, for people to purchase and to sell goods. Okay. Hunting, it talks about a little bit in your book, but those are the basics as far as the actual geographical areas. If you turn to section 2,